All right, we just had our update on the pandemic, but there are a number of other topics I want to get to, not the least of which is the fight over voting rights. Let's bring in this morning's roundtable. With me this morning, Zoe Clark, Program Director for Michigan Public Radio. Speaking of public radio, Stephen Henderson is here from Detroit Today on WDET. Chad Livengood is the Senior Editor of Crain's Detroit Business, and Nolan Fenley is the editorial page editor of the Detroit News. And Nolan, let me start with you. My hunch is no matter what happens with this voting rights package, we're going to be fighting over things like early voting and absentee balloting straight on through to Election Day again. But give me your thoughts on where we stand right now. It doesn't look like President Biden's going to get his way here, does it?
No, and I mean, if he's watching his approval ratings, he's going to have to pivot away from these issues that aren't on the top of Americans' priority list and towards things like the economy, inflation, COVID. And, you know, this, again, if you want to build confidence elections, if you want to restore trust in the vote, you don't do it by breaking the rules, busting the rules, and passing it on a straight party line vote. This is something Americans expect Republicans and Democrats to sit down together and discuss and come up with the solutions that might actually work to keep our elections secure.
Zoe, it's really interesting. Both sides seem to need such different things to feel that their election day is secure.
Well, and this is really kind of the American story when it comes to elections over the past few years, right? That after for so many years now being told that elections are not fair or secure, that there is folks within the populace who go out to vote who really are concerned about that vote. And yet audits have been done, including in Arizona, that show that actually, and this is going back to 2020, of course, that overall these were fair elections. But to Nolan's point, I mean, the president has a huge problem in two senators, Sikkema and Manchin, who are Democrats, who are not taking on to this call. And he had lunch with these Senate Democrats and basically came out late last week and said, yeah, it looks like this isn't going to happen. Now he's come out and said he's going to have another press conference this coming week, close to the anniversary, of course, of his inauguration. We'll see if he decides to sort of double down on this issue. Yeah. But he does not have fellow Democrats on top of this.
Chad, what are we hearing bubbling around in Lansing on this topic?
You know, the election bills that the Senate Republicans pursued, that they sent over to the governor, she already vetoed them last year, kind of in that veto spree. She continued. And, you know, right now there's been kind of a detente, a ceasefire at this point. They have not moved any of those bills. I mean, you might recall back in December, they were all getting along, the Republicans and the Democratic governor with working on economic development. A lot of the focus just seems to be on how do we spend this $7 billion we got laying around in federal stimulus money and less about fighting election wars right now.
Yeah. Stephen, let me get your thoughts. I keep coming back to this. We've got two sets of politicians that seem to want different things. We've also got two sets of electorate, of constituents who want very different things to feel better about Election Day.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, look, the idea that voting rights is the same as other kind of partisan legislation is the first falsehood that we've heard about this, and not the only one. This is about ensuring access to the ballot. And let's take a note of the fact that we're coming up on the MLK Day holiday, and we'll hear all of these politicians talk about how much they love Martin Luther King, but they don't love what he stood for. They don't love what he fought the hardest for, which was voter access, black voter access. That's what these bills are about, is about protecting us against discrimination that still exists, flat out still exists. Very much as it has throughout the country's history. The idea that the filibuster, which also is a tool that was used by Southern racists to prevent equality for African Americans, is now standing in the way of that progress. We can do better than this. We just need the other side, Republicans, moderates, to understand how important this is to making sure that democracy actually means something.
Nolan, is that the problem among Republicans? They don't understand how important it is?
Well, I don't know that you can make a case for voter suppression when voter turnout is going up in every election, even in the states that have passed voter integrity bills. And it's, the American people broadly support some of these measures, including showing voter ID and banning the sort of ballot harvesting you saw in Wisconsin in the 2020 election. Again, this has got to be something that's done together, or you're going to have half the population not trust it. And this is not something that you should ram through on a straight partisan vote. There are things we can agree on election reform, I'm sure. But as far as suppression goes, if that's the aim, it's doing a pretty poor job of it.
Zoe, are there things we can agree on? Do you think both sides can find any common ground? I'm having a hard time finding it.
Well, hey, I mean, let's not forget about 2018 when Michiganders passed a ballot proposal that actually made it easier in some respects and more open to vote in terms of same-day registration. And that was incredibly popular in this state. So, I think this has always come back to this sort of Republican versus Democrat. Democrats want to make it easier to vote, and Republicans have always talked about access to the ballot and security of the ballot. And unfortunately, this issue has become more politicized than ever over the past few years. But absolutely, there is, when you look at the ballot proposal in 2018 that passed, with more than 60% of the vote in Michigan, and was extremely popular and had bipartisan support.
Yeah, it did. Chad, I want to move to where we are with the economy right now and what that portends for 2022. I'm kind of confused. Retail sales over the holiday season were pretty darn robust, even though we just look at 7% inflation report just coming out this past week. And we had this report from the Detroit Economic Club. The outlook among Michigan businesses right now they're pretty optimistic. Things look pretty robust to them for the year ahead, even though we're right in the middle of this massive surge in the pandemic. What's your sense of where we are?
Yeah, well, that's not exactly translating right now in voter attitude about the economy. This new poll that you all did with the Detroit News, I mean, it found that 63, almost 64% of voters think that the nation is on the wrong track.
Yeah.
And this is up steeply from just a year ago, where we were at 48% on the wrong track. And think about just a year ago, or excuse me, that was in January 2020. So obviously a lot has changed. And then, back to like May of 2016, this is the highest level since then, at sort of the end of the Obama years. And so this is sort of an extraordinary moment where, yes, according to all the data, people are spending, they're more employed, there's plenty of jobs, not enough people to fill them. But people think that the country is still going to pot. And the state's wrong track numbers in that poll were 48% wrong track and 36% right. So the state is still, most voters still view the state in the wrong track. That obviously is not a good thing if your name is Gretchen Whitmer and you're facing re-election this fall, no matter who is the Republican nominee. Interesting,
Stephen. I'm sorry, I can't remember which political commentator said this recently, though. It used to be that it was the economy stupid. Well, now it depends on which version of the economy you choose to see, I guess. So I'm not sure we all obviously can seem to agree on exactly where we are in the business and economic world right now. What do you see, Stephen?
I mean, I think that, the numbers speak for themselves. I mean, things are going very well in a number of different ways, and they're going well at the top, where you see the S&P 500 hit 68 highs in the last 12 months. And on the other end of the scale, where wage growth has come back in an important way, unemployment is down. I think that the general discontentment that people feel is what is being reflected in these polls. People are very scared still about the pandemic. People are very worried about the future. And I think then when you ask them, how are things going? Are things going in the right direction? The answer they're giving you is about all those other concerns, more so than the pocketbook issues that, as we see, are not nearly as acute as they have been even in recent years.
Nolan, what are you seeing?
Well, I can't imagine what you're talking about. This is not perception.
That's what I mean. Which economy are you seeing? Go ahead.
I mean, it's not perception. You go to the grocery store and your milk, eggs, poultry, 11% higher. your new vehicles or used vehicles 30% higher, gasoline 50% higher, heating bills 30% higher. This is real pocketbook stuff. This is not people out there saying, well, something might be wrong, but I can't figure out what it is. They know what it is. Worst inflation in 40 years. And this administration did not take it seriously. When it first emerged, they said, it's transitory. We're going to go out and focus on all these other things on our priority list. Inflation is about the worst thing that can happen to the economy because it's going to have to be managed, and managing it risks throwing the country into recession. It's a very delicate thing. And so, I mean, this is not two versions of an economy. Everybody's paying more, and it's cutting into everybody's paycheck, everybody's household budgets.
Zoe, you get the last 30 seconds. Your thoughts quickly.
I think we're in a malaise, and I think that the economy right now is very difficult. But to Stephen's point, there's not a lot to look forward to right now. And we are a people that like to look forward to trips and going out to dinner and seeing friends. We are in these cocoons yet again 2 years in, and we have been living through a global, pandemic, and that is hard. And so I think it's a combination. It is a lot of gunky stuff in a big old nasty soup right now is what it is.
And Flashpoint has to do a little business as well, which means I got to get to a break. Gang, thank you all so much for being here. Happy New Year. We'll talk to you all again soon. Back with more in just a minute on Flash.